What is your financial net worth?
My financial net worth is approximately 50 to 55 million Kenya shillings.
The purpose of this vetting, Ambassador, is to ascertain your suitability. Before I give you an opportunity to give us a brief history, allow me to ask you these questions. Have you complied with tax obligations to the state?
Yes, I have.
Have you complied with the clearance from Director of Criminal Investigation?
Yes, I have.
Have you complied with the clearance from Office of the Registrar of Political Parties?
Yes, I have.
Have you complied with clearance from EACC?
Yes, I have.
Have you been charged in a court of law or convicted?
No.
Have you been adversely mentioned in an investigatory or parliamentary report?
No.
Do you hold dual citizenship?
No.
What is your financial net worth?
My financial net worth is approximately 50 to 55 million Kenya shillings.
What are your current or anticipated sources of income?
My current source of income is from my employer, the government of Kenya, from the ministry, and pretty much that's it for now.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'll give you an opportunity then in 10 minutes or so to give us, or even less if you can do, which may be good, to give us a history and the story of your life.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank you, Chairperson, and the committee members. Well, like I said, my name is Philip Mundia Gethiora. I'm born from the village of Mutoma, which is in Mangu, in Kiambu County, Gatundu North. Started my primary school there in the village, from standard 1 to standard 7. I then proceeded for my high school at Moi Forces Academy here in Nairobi, where I sat for both my O and A-level exams, after which then I qualified to join the university, and I joined Kenyatta University in 1990. Attained my Bachelor of Arts degree, and then began my work life there, doing several odd jobs here and there until around 1995, when I got my first formal employment with the Trust Card. It's now defunct. It was under the Trust Bank then. In 1997, I proceeded to study for my master's degree in the US and lived on there for some time, and then applied to join the Ministry of Foreign Affairs around 1997. And since then, I have been with the ministry serving in different capacities. I've gone up through the ranks in the ministry for this is now my 17th year. In that time, I have served as Deputy Head of Mission in Kenya Embassy in Moscow between 2011 and 2015. Then I finished my term, which is ordinarily for Foreign Service officers, 4 years or 48 months. Returned to the ministry headquarters, and then was attached to the National Counterterrorism Center from 2016 June to around end of 2018. Then finished my attachment there, returned to the ministry, then was posted to Kigali, Rwanda. I reported in Kigali, Rwanda, 2019 December as a senior officer. I stayed on there, and then my promotion to ambassador came in 2022, May 26th. And I'm still the head of mission in Kigali, Rwanda. I think in a nutshell, Mr. Chairperson, that is a short brief about my journey so far.
Very well. Honorable Memusi, I'll invite members to engage and ask you a few questions here and there. We will take 2 questions and you respond to them. Then we'll take another set of 2 questions. And Honorable Memusi, you can start.
Ambassador, let me first of all congratulate you for your nomination. And first of all, before I ask you a question about your appointment, there's something pertaining the ministry on scholarships. Could you tell us how scholarships that go through the foreign affairs are distributed to Kenyans? Because even members representing Kenyans, sometimes we don't know how the scholarships are distributed. You, having been there for quite some time, could shed some light on this. But on a related question on Mozambique. Mozambique's population is about 32 million, much less than Kenya. The GDP of Mozambique is also almost 6 times smaller than Kenya. Stands at 15.78 billion USD, while our GDP stands at 110.3 something USD. What do you think would be the value that this country will derive from you going to Mozambique? What do we expect as a country that you going to Mozambique will enhance our trade with Mozambique, or what value will we get as a country?
My question will be, you have been in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for quite some time. What would you say is your biggest achievement in any of the stations you've served? Secondly, the MFA made a resolution that diplomats can engage MDAs directly. What would you say that has been like in the ministry? Is there any measurable benefit of bypassing the MFA, as has been the practice before that? What would you say in the effect it has had in our bilateral and multilateral relations? Thank you, Chair.
The primary ministry responsible for the coordination of scholarships is the Ministry of Education. What we do at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is disseminate the information, because at times this information is channeled while it's coming through the Ministry of Education, but at times through the embassies of different countries, that information reaches us, but often after it has been forwarded to the Ministry of Education. So for our role is really to disseminate and to put out there to the people. So in terms of how it is shared, the primary responsibility for that is squarely on the Ministry of Education. Now, moving on to your question number 2, Mozambique. Yes, smaller GDP, smaller population, big opportunities for us for this reason. The stage or the level of development of Mozambique, as you've correctly observed, is much less than ours, which gives us an advantage in terms of several sectors that we are already advanced in. One, just thinking about our own human resource capital here is a tremendous opportunity for us to be able to go into hospitality, to education, to take our manpower into the various sectors in terms of what already has been agreed upon capacity building for the public service of Mozambique, as well as in the Defense Cooperation Agreement, where we have attachment of our military officers, and also in very many other sectors where we hold an advantage. However, the fact that it is less developed in terms maybe of the agricultural sector, it is an opportunity for us to go in. I'll give you an example for comparison purposes. Rwanda, where I have been for the last 4 years, much, much smaller than Mozambique, but of tremendous advantage for us. We're doing 41 billion exports from Kenya annually. I mean, so far, between 2019 and current, they've gone up for various different reasons. So in Mozambique, the areas of blue economy, the areas of the transportation connections through the ports, I think for us it's just that ceiling, the disparity that you have identified correctly, is an opportunity for Kenya. Chairperson, if you allow me to move on to Honorable Gale's question. Now, let me start with the second question. So the question of engaging with MDAs directly has not been what is in operation so far. It was a pronouncement, but in reality, relations between countries are guided by the Geneva Convention. So the entry points are the ministries of foreign affairs for some obvious reasons in terms of coordinating, controlling, and being able to manage the information that has come in. So I would not be able to give you an assessment because it's short-lived and has not actually been the practice so far. Allow me to now just quickly say, without being very lengthy about it, I can just say that in Russia, I was, as a deputy, but I was also in charge of the economic diplomacy. So our biggest thing there was to move tea. Kenyan tea, Moscow alone consumes way much more tea than even within the country of Kenya. We were covering Kazakhstan, Belarus, and Ukraine at that time. So cut flowers as well. Those were our biggest, or my biggest contributions in that, apart from the normal duties of a deputy, administration and all that. So economic diplomacy was my strong point there. My attachment to the National Counterterrorism Center was crucial in terms of bringing partnerships, international partnerships, into the fight against terrorism and in the prevention and countering of violent extremism. We're able to mobilize to significant levels resources that contributed greatly to the national security sector, to the security sector of the country, tasked with that particular area. Now, in Rwanda, just to pick one, as I said when I reported to station in 2019, we were doing 21 billion exports to Rwanda versus 3 billion imports into Kenya. We are currently at 41 billion exports from Kenya, and still at just hovering over 3 billion imports from Rwanda. So the balance of trade is heavily in our favor, and I think that is, I can count that as one of my happiest achievements in Rwanda. Thank you, Chairperson.
I feel like you've not told me the biggest achievement of your career. Yeah? Just one that you feel, when I was in Rwanda, I did this, or I would want to know. Secondly, Chair, just final one. You were touted to be the head of the establishment of the mission in Hargeisa in Somaliland, I think way back in 2019. And recently we have sent liaison officers to Somaliland. And you know what that means, because Mogadishu still feels that Somaliland is part of their territory. And in fact, it's only Taiwan that has recognized Somaliland. What is your take? Does that expose the country in terms of our different issues and our conflict, or rather shared conflict with Somalia, and also terror exposure to Kenya? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, is on the issue of espionage. Many developed countries will have their missions as centers of espionage. That's why they do a lot of, I know. Therefore, when governments just about to do something, the missions there are able to report back home as to the intent and the plans of the countries where they're represented. So, what's your view? What's your take on spying? I mean, because we've seen this as one of the areas that developed countries are exploiting. Of course, for lack of better word, how well our missions abroad, because we've been there, our missions vast with, not just vast, equipped in terms of intelligence collection and disseminating the same home. Finally, Chair, this is an accomplished ambassador, but I must say that I'm very disappointed. This morning we had a very organized former member of parliament. I don't know whether it is because they're used to secretaries and PAs working for them, so that then even his presentation of documents is quite wanting. All these are very important documents because I've been able to go through them, Chair, and they are all loose and you can't really follow. I would wish that the nominee in the event that is approved by this House borrows a leaf from one nominee by the name with Dr. Wilson Kogo, and I know he's following suit. He's also a student of PhD. I've been able to peruse through these loose documents, and I would advise him for purposes of the future, and even for his generation, just to borrow a leaf from that gentleman. These are very wonderful. I know you've worked for all these certificates. They can be bowed and be in a better place. Borrow that leaf.
Be very careful. Ambassador, please respond to the two.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me start with the last one and appreciate the advice from Mheshimiwa. Maybe the small excuse I have is that the traveling, I'm still serving out. I rushed in a hurry, but that's not an excuse. So point well taken, Mheshimiwa. Thank you very much for that. In terms, I'll go back to your other question before I come to Honorable Gallis. There is specialized agencies that deal with the matters that you speak about. And while we had a mission, but we prefer to leave those specialized agencies to carry out their work, of which they're very effective and very capable, I would say. But in a broader sense, that ties to Honorable Gale's question as well, because the point of all the efforts which are made is to give each country an advantage, because each country acts in pursuit of its own national strategic interest. So in whatever means they can, then they try to employ all the tools available to be able to achieve that end. As far as Hargeisa was concerned, I was never quite officially sent there. I think I also saw it in the newspapers as much as everyone else did. But in terms of the relations, again, each country sees what is to its best advantage. And if there is advantages that Kenya is seeing in Somaliland, and as well as into Mogadishu, I think we should know that Kenya has always had a positive non-alignment policy. So we engage that in all our foreign policy activities, and I think this is the spirit in which this has been deployed in terms of Somaliland. Thank you, Chairperson.
First, I wish to congratulate you for being nominated by the President for this position, and I have two questions for you. One is that Mozambique is one of Kenya's top 5 destinations. How can Kenyans in Mozambique be protected and be integrated into Kenya's development agenda? And finally, how would you describe the current relationship between Mozambique and Kenya? Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. My name is Sloya Clement. I know you've been in Moscow and you're still in Moscow, in Russia. And we know well Russia has been at war with Ukraine, and maybe you have an experience of what that means. And then here, as you get to Mozambique, if you are approved by this committee and the House, you got to know that Mozambique has been at civil war for 15 years, since 1977 to 1992, a 15-year civil war. But its GDP has been growing tremendously from that time that civil war ended in 1992. And then again, Mozambique's economy contracted in 2020 due to COVID-19, but it saw a modest rebound in 2021 when COVID went down. Maybe what would you carry from Kenya to Mozambique, and what do you think you can borrow from Mozambique to Kenya in terms of economic growth in fostering the relationships between the two countries? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. In terms of Honorable Kasalu's question, the diaspora, globally, the diaspora, as we all know, is crucial and contributes greatly to our national development, to the extent which the State Department for Diaspora Affairs is now very active. And my encounter so far with the diaspora, I can borrow from both Russia, which was mainly students, but also from Rwanda, which is varied and very large, about 8,000 to 10,000. I think it all depends on how you lead in terms of organizing them and focusing them, and also facilitating, for instance, in terms of Mozambique. I know there's a bit of challenges there in terms of remittances, sending remittances back to Kenya, but I see it also as an opportunity because it means we can bring in our experience of the financial services that we have very efficiently employed in Kenya. That would be a starting point, to bring them together, organize them together in an organized way, and then finding ways to properly motivate and inform them so that they can be able to make their contributions to either on their personal level and also on a country level in terms of their remittance. There was a second part of that question that was talking about current relationships between Mozambique and Kenya. I would say the bilateral relations between Mozambique and Kenya are healthy and strong, primarily because in the way Africa has organized itself, we see different parts of the continent trying to maximize their own abilities to provide for their own citizens in terms of economic progress. Now, while Mozambique is in the South African Development Community circuit, it is seeking options, and it is seeking partnerships and reaching out to Kenya, which offers us a tremendous opportunity to be able to invite that and be able to find ways in which we can have a mutually beneficial relationship, a win-win situation. And I think it is healthy, it is strong, and it's very long-standing relationship. You remember the Makonde people arrived in Kenya in the 50s, and they have actually been mainstreamed into the Kenyan citizenry. So it is a reflection of that historic and positive relationship between the two countries. Coming to Mheshimiwa Clement question on Russia, I wouldn't say I have any experience with the conflict stage, because I left in 2015, and in fact in that period 2011 to 2015 when I was there, we had many students in the diaspora, engineering, medicine and all that, so we would transverse those countries very easily. I have almost nil experience in terms of that, but I think what is in the open, in the media, that everyone can see is the same for me. For Mozambique, you've correctly observed that they went through a turbulent period after independence, and then plunging into civil war, which divided the country and slowed the economic development significantly. COVID, correctly observed, but that effect was a global effect on all economies. But what is admirable about Mozambique is being able to come to the table through the Comprehensive Peace Agreement of 1994, where they agreed to have both Frelimo and Renamo put down their arms and immediately embarking on restructuring the economy. So I think there is of their blue economy, and as well as being able to develop their export sectors, and as well as internal organization, are probably not lessons just for Kenya, but for everyone who would wish to reorganize their countries. But I would say that Kenya, we are doing pretty well in comparison. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, I'll give you.
Thank you, Chairperson. If confirmed by the committee to proceed on to Maputo, Mozambique, I intend to carry on and employ similar, if not better, strategies that I have employed throughout the years, but primarily focusing on economic diplomacy, trade and investment, which is a vehicle for which that our own country and Mozambique, in fact the entire continent of Africa, is depending on and looking to be able to better the lives of their citizens, to improve the economy with our own economic model as proposed by His Excellency, that seeks to bring the people from difficulties into progress. So I intend to focus on being able to reorganize the diaspora, as I said, and employ the tools that are there in terms of public diplomacy, economic diplomacy, and all the other kinds of manner, including initiatives that can allow me to seek the maximum benefits in pursuit of economic progress and in the protection of our country's national strategic interests. In other words, I hope to put my best foot forward if confirmed by the committee, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity that Chairperson and the committee has given to me to be able to speak with you. Thank you.
So the presentation by the U.S. ambassador to Kenya in the U.S. in the recent visit by the president, and she understood her stuff. In fact, she marketed Kenya more than our own ambassador. You come across as an extremely brilliant person. Please, let's use this opportunity to market this country. There's a lot that we can do with Mozambique in terms of LPG and many other things that can be beneficial of this country. Even just the mere fact that we can be able to be, I understand there has been disquiet before in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because it had become a heaping ground of failed politicians and failed career servants, and somehow the diplomatic team had felt demoralized because of such action. We've been vetting for the last 2 days, and I'm happy to report that we, save for 2 or 3, the rest have been largely from within Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So it's up to this committee then to consider and see your suitability. But between now and then, I wish you all the best. If you are confirmed, please serve this country with all your might. God bless.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, committee.
More Radio, 88.2 FM. We are in charge.